Okay, everybody, I've got Coach here. I'm going to let him start off with the opening statement, and then we'll take your questions about Ohio State.
Thanks for your patience there, guys. Film went a little longer. Obviously, biggest thing for us here over the last 2 to 3 days is I thought the first half on Wednesday's game, I thought we played well and did some good things. The second half, I just didn't think we played with nearly enough toughness as a group, especially after watching the film. Obviously we made some mistakes, and sometimes that happens. We certainly don't want to make them, and we'd like to continue to work to make fewer of those. But I just didn't. I felt that way after the game. I just didn't like our toughness during that second half. Thought it was lacking. So that's been obviously the bulk of what certainly we've talked about and done here the last 2 or 3 days. I think we've practiced well. The kids have really responded, which has been good. Obviously we play, at Ohio State tomorrow. Biggest thing when I watch them again is they're, defensively, obviously they're ranked 27th in the country on the defensive end. They've per KenPom in terms of efficiency numbers, and they've got great size. They're athletic. They block shots. They're great on the defensive backboard. They've got good length on the perimeter with, you don't see very often where a team starts a 6'7" 2-guard, and a 6'7" 3-man. So they're very long and big at those positions as well. Obviously I have a great deal of respect for, their entire team, but I've really enjoyed watching Jae'Sean Tate play. I think he plays the game the right way. He's tough. He's physical. He competes. He's a guy last year that I thought from a competitive toughness standpoint really stood out in the game. We played him one time there in Columbus and kind of rewatching that. So that'll be a challenge for us for sure. On the offensive end, obviously Lyle had a terrific game the other day with 13 assists and really makes their team better. Loving and Diop and Cam Williams off the bench shoot the ball well and provide them with shooting and a spark there. And then I just think their 4s and 5s are, like I said, long, athletic, block shots, rebound, finish well, very mobile. They bring, certainly with Tate as a part of that group, they bring a toughness element that is required certainly to play against them. So, we're looking to get forward to getting back out there, after a few days of practice here, especially coming off that second half on Wednesday where I just didn't feel like our competitive toughness from a cumulative standpoint was where it needed to be. Questions?
Hey, Coach, Doug Bouchon from Rivals. Hey, it's the first Big Ten road game for quite a few of the kids, some younger guys. Talk about the challenge for those guys.
Well, obviously, when you're a young guy, it's a first. There's a lot of first. We just came off their first bragging rights game, their first Big Ten game, now their first Big Ten road game. So you certainly don't want to use youth as an excuse. I mean, we've got to execute, and we got to play with some grit, and you got to do that. Try to do the best you can to win every possession that's the one that's in front of you. And try to compete for 40 minutes and be able to sustain effort throughout possessions, be able to sustain effort throughout halves and games. And right now the consistency is something that, we've been talking to the young guys and the newcomers about quite a bit. And obviously, especially when you play in our league, home or away, but certainly on the road, that's required. You gotta have some consistency with execution and some consistency with toughness.
Hey, Coach, this is Scott Ritchie. You've talked some of the season about the point guards that you've faced. Where would you say Jaquan Lyle kind of fits in, against that group? Yeah,
he's unique, Scott, because he's 6'5" and he's big and strong. I don't know if we played somebody with that type of size and that weight and body at that position. And, he's confrontational as a driver. He's got a great body for a point guard, and it also allows him to see and help him with his making passes and making reads. He really has a gift with his vision. He's a terrific passer. I've watched him play for years. He can really see things, and then you add to the fact that he's 6'5". On top of that, it's kind of like having the difference between having maybe a 6-foot quarterback in the NFL and a 6'6" quarterback that can see over the line of scrimmage. And I think that the thing that stands out for me is just his, he's got great vision. Can really see, can really pass.
Coach, this is Derek. I know Khalid was in the building today out of quarantine. Could you give an update on his status?
Yeah, he's feeling a little bit better and worked out this morning. Obviously doesn't have, when you've, been, cooped up for a few days, you don't have quite the energy level, lost a little bit of weight, so we're, at this point, we're, our plan is not to, use him tomorrow and to continue to bring him back to full health before we demand a lot out of him physically from an energy perspective. How long will that take, Derek? I mean, I don't know. Doc seemed to think a few days, so hopefully we'll be able to, get him back to full strength, at least close to it, by the time we play again. I think we play again Thursday. So, that's our plan, but we'll have to see how his body responds.
Hey, Coach, Scott again. As a follow-up to that, with Khalid not available and Jalen kind of last point guard standing again, just what will you need from him tomorrow against Ohio State?
Well, I thought Jalen did some good things Wednesday night. I thought he had one of our guys that had consistent energy, a consistent voice throughout. Need him to make a few more toughness plays and help us with defensive rebounding and, some physical things in and around the paint. But I thought he handled the ball well. Thought he made good reads. He took care of the ball. I thought he did some good things. Obviously, it was a lot of minutes. He had not, played that many minutes in a game post-injury there, but I thought he stood up pretty well, and he's got to be ready to go. Obviously, he's going to play a big part of the game tomorrow.
And just one more thing about Jalen, just the last 2 years where Tracy's gone down, and just how has he grown as your point guard, being asked to do maybe even more?
Well, I know he and Tracy obviously have a great relationship, and he and Khalid do as well, and they all kind of talk and learn from each other. Tracy's done a really good job of, coaching from the sidelines, unfortunately, for a couple years now. But, they're obviously Jalen and those guys really respect Tracy, if anything, just because of how tough he is and what he's been through. But he's grown. I mean, he's gotten stronger. I think he's better. I really... he's done a very good job of not having excuses and playing through the injury that he had in Game 1 with the open dislocation. Is he 100% of where he was at prior to that? I was really excited for him because of how much improvement he had made throughout the summer and the fall, and he had gained weight and really worked on shooting and a lot of different things. But, I think he's getting closer to being back to 100%, but probably not quite there yet. But I think certainly all the experiences he's been through, over the 2+ years, I think really made him a much better player. But most importantly, I think even a better person.
Coach, is Doug again. Any update on Mike Thorne?
Yeah, at this point, he's feeling a little bit better, but right now we've just started some activity and incremental steps where, to see if it's going to swell and how much soreness it's going to have. And, so we're, to say how that's going to work out, we really don't know until he actually, tries to, continue to maybe increase some of the treatment and the rehab. I know he's had some soreness and still continue to have some swelling and, but I just kind of leave that up to Schmitty and our doctors in terms of what they're doing with them. And, they keep me updated. I do think he's feeling a little bit better. Obviously, when you have a lower body injury, your conditioning, your weight, the swelling, the soreness, there's a lot of factors. So I think the good news is that he feels like the knee's feeling a little bit better, but there's still a lot of things we have to tackle at this point.
Coach, it's Craig Schote from WCIA. after the game Wednesday, you said you wanted to see the captain step up and get the team ready. How have they responded the past few days in practice?
They've responded. Obviously, as I tell them, to whom much is given, much is expected. And or in their case, they certainly earned. I don't mean, given. They got voted by their teammates and to be captains, and they've got a lead. And right now I'm trying to get them to be a little bit more vocal. I think they have been here. We're trying to get that out of them in practice. I'm one of those guys that think that habits are, you have to build habits, and certainly being vocal is one of those habits. Some guys have a natural skill with that, maybe, where they're more inclined to talk than others. For example, a guy like Tate. But, Hill and Nunn, I'm trying to get those guys to be more vocal. Tracy's obviously a little bit more naturally vocal as well. But we need everybody to step up, not just those guys. We need to have not only great leadership, we need to have great followers. And but yeah, I've challenged those guys, and I thought those guys have responded in the last 2 or 3 days.
Coach, talk about what you're working on defensively in practice this week and how that's coming along.
Well, I'm not going to give you specifics, obviously, due to strategy, game planning, et cetera, but believe me, we've got a lot to work on, and I think part of it is, as you do it, and I was talking about habits earlier, I think our guys can tell you what they're supposed to do, our young guys. We've been here now with them through the summer. But there's a difference between doing that and doing it at real-time speed and having enough reps, especially if you're someone like J. Cole, who missed quite a bit, or, Khalid, who didn't get here till fall semester. They don't maybe have quite as many reps as some of the other guys. And trying to get, regardless of what phase of our defense we're working on, trying to get those habits down. To where, I always have a saying with them, in pressure situations, your habits take over. And I think that's so true in life and ball. So right now, some of those defensive things on that side of the ball, I thought we made some strides here the last 3 days, but we got to continue to wear those things out. I use the analogy sometimes with the staff, we have to continue to serve vanilla ice cream until those guys eat the vanilla ice cream well. Then we can start to work on some of the other flavors. And, right now we're eating a lot of vanilla ice cream in practice.
Anything else for Coach? Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.